Hey people, it's Sam Farkas with Green Hills Guitar Studio here, stopping in with a quick 5-minute lesson. This one's going to be a little brief because, well, honestly, I've got a lot of music to learn. So I got to get started on my homework. But I think it's an important subject nonetheless. As always, these video lessons are based on actual questions that students have asked me while teaching at Green Hills Guitar Studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, so this lesson is all about vibrato and ways to think about vibrato and how maybe a technique you can use. Most of the time, one of the hallmarks of maybe an amateurish guitar player or maybe a guitar player that's not really listening to themselves or thinking too much about what they're doing is an intense vibrato on almost every note. I can't remember who said this, but the quote is, putting vibrato on every note is like putting ketchup all over your steak. Like, it's a little too, it's kind of tasteless, right? So the first thing that I recognized in this particular student is every time he ended a phrase, there would be a very wide vibrato. It sounded pretty much like this. Check this out. You've heard this before. Ooh, that's pretty rough. And I called this. I called it to this person's attention, and they recognize that yes, they in fact do that quite a bit. And even when they're making a conscious effort to limit the vibrato, they were still doing it. So it was something that was deeply ingrained into their playing. It had become a habit. So now it's some work to try to break that habit. So I encourage this person to record themselves while they're practicing and listen back to it and kind of take note of this kind of autopilot they go into with heavy vibrato. You may be guilty of this, and if so, you need to start working on it. The other component here is all about the technique of vibrato. Again, usually the hallmark of a beginning guitar player, if they're using their first finger like this, or any finger really, to pull on the string, it's not really a good idea. If you tend to overfret, you don't have very much control over it. It's not a very musical vibrato. Instead, it should come from your hand. Check it out. Here's an example. The wrong way. Look at that finger wiggling around. It doesn't sound great unless you're trying to use it as some type of an effect. Here's a more subtle and more controlled way to do it. I'm not really moving my finger, I'm moving my hand. Right? It's not this. Whew. People, don't do that. All right? It's much more controlled. And when you move from your hand, instead of wiggling your finger around, you don't have to push down as hard. You don't have to use as much energy. And the note will actually resonate more. It'll sustain and last longer. All right? Go from your hand. Here it is with the wiggly finger. Not a fan. Unless you want a really extreme vibrato, stop using your finger, start using your hand. Okay. Until next time.